think everybody's filtering in now. You're all very welcome, guys. We might as well kick things off, and in a nice way this year, you don't have to listen to me for the next 45 minutes entirely. It's we have a couple of speakers just to break things up and give you a bit of a break from my voice. Stephen Beck is going to have a chat with you for a few minutes in terms of his key experience as a hirer of chartered accountants and as an FCA himself. I'll intro him shortly. And he'll give you a practical worldview of things. And then Dee France is going to jump in towards the end of the talk as well. And Dee looks after our Thrive Wellbeing and CA support team. So she'll be able to give you a bit of a view on that as well. So thanks for joining us. I think everybody is pretty much there now. And just to say, I'm going to fly through my slides here, guys. So if you miss anything, you can get the slides off us at the tail end in emails, or there will be a recording of it, I believe, as well. Chris assures me, so it'll be on recording as well. So look, I want to make this as punchy and relevant and useful for you as possible. I'm talking to newly qualified chartered accountants all the time, every week, and I think a lot of you will have probably finished your contracts in the last couple of months and are starting to try and figure out what the hell does my professional career look like and how do I build that. And I want to, I'm a chartered accountant, as I said. I'm in recruitment probably about 15 years now, and this is like an accumulation of the best tips and kind of things that I've seen down through the years that really savvy chartered accountants have done with their careers. So hopefully I can stick to that line and give you a bit of a guide on that. So as I said, flying through it, and just to highlight the speakers as mentioned. So it's myself, Stephen Beck, who is an FCA and a specialist in terms of SME finance teams, and he'll kind of talk through that. He's an ex-CFO himself as well, so a ton of experience there in the real world to be able to talk you through. And Dee France, as I said, manages the Thrive Wellbeing Hub and CA support. So the key with the talk today is to give you a quick view of the job market, touch on salaries and package considerations, early career building tips. That's really where you're at now at the moment. So you've parked the books, you're fully qualified now, and your focus now is really building a professional career and how to best do that and to tune into that, and rather than just put the head down and work, pick up tips on that in that regard. Your personal brand is something you want to become aware of. We'll talk through that. Making good decisions, building the career project, and as I said, looking after your well-being, because at the end of the day, job is only one piece of the pie in terms of the bigger picture of life, so you need to be aware of that. The market, to get into it, the market has been pretty good in 2024. It's been pretty solid in Q1, Q2 for newly quals. Most of your peers will be getting good roles in the Irish market in practice industry and financial services, if they're not heading off to Australia or further flung places where a lot of newly quals are still doing as well. So the picture looks good. Sectors that are quite busy at the moment are data, AI, ESG, sustainability, food, energy, banking, environmental, housing, charities, tech, and healthcare. Always good to tune into what sectors are growth sectors. That's where you get really interesting roles. So keep an eye on those. In terms of your market homework. International opportunities are back, as I said, and the economic outlook is good, because you have to keep taking the temperature of the bigger picture and how global forces, I suppose, are affecting Ireland, and is it going to impact on the economy? But things look pretty good despite the geopolitical stage. Salary levels shouldn't really be top of your list necessarily as a newly qualified chartered accountant. Don't get caught up in chasing salaries and the few extra grand. I'd be more focused on what sort of environment am I going to move into, what team is around me, who am I reporting to, and what skills can I learn, what sector am I in, things like that. But notwithstanding that, Inflation and salaries have gone up a little bit. So, I would say high-flying Big Four qualifiers are probably hitting those early 60s in terms of salary bases. Largely, it's in the 50s, mid to high 50s, probably for other kind of SMP qualified ACAs. Benefit packages vary as well. Financial services strong in terms of benefit packages. And then, as mentioned, salary, probably third on your list in terms of hierarchy decisions. We'll keep an eye on inflation because you don't want to be behind the curve in that regard. So early career build considerations, and these are just some things as you start to look at the market, like what, and start to build a professional career for yourself. What are the things I need to be, conscious of and savvy about? Make time to treat this like a long-term project. It's the cliched kind of 5-year plan. Do have a plan in place, have a notion, have a vision, formalize it, set up a spreadsheet for yourself, chip away at it, the last Friday of every month. Research all the different paths that you've seen your peers take, and keep an eye on some of your peers and where they've gone. If they're like 3 years ahead of you in terms of being qualified, what companies have they moved into, and have a look at those paths. Formalize some mentors for yourself. That's really important. Like Stephen has probably moved into the space now where he is a mentor, but he no doubt will recognize the value of that in terms of having maybe 3 different mentors: a family member, an ex-colleague, and then someone you get introduced to who has gone down the path that you want to walk. So be deliberate about owning your career path, building it, mapping it out, and really treating it, giving it the time and attention it deserves, I suppose. That's important. So many people just forget. They start the job and then they just flop from one job to the next. Secondments, if you're staying in practice for a while, might be worth looking at secondments just to get industry experience and kind of get a feel for, if you were ultimately going to go out into industry, it can give you an insight. Be prepared to pivot and so on. And then the final point here, and it's a really important one, is just to build a network. We'll touch on that again in a minute, but building a network is really essential, and now is the time to start. Again, Stephen will probably touch on this a little bit more practically, but if you're looking at really meticulous steps to how do I approach the market and how do I get a new job, this is kind of these are the steps to it in terms of assessing yourself, knowing what you're about and what you're bringing to the table, putting it into a good CV, using your network and then attacking the market. So that's there in the slide deck, as is this. You can't read that, I know, but it's a document I did up in terms of a job search checklist. There's about 40 points there. If you are attacking the market, you can go down through it and see if you're taking each of the boxes and making sure you're doing all the key elements. And again, Stephen will speak to that a little bit. I like this slide because it tells you, it sort of shows you, now that you're across the line qualified, all the different types of jobs and titles and avenues that you can go down as a newly qual ACA. This is only a small selection. There's so many other routes you can go. You can become a recruiter if you wanted to, so it's exciting the way the landscape opens up, and like this might even inform your job search alert, your jobs board alerts. You could put in some of these titles and kind of get the job sent on to you, for example. So some key tips that I think are quite useful, like be aware of your personal brand, which is essentially what people say about you when you leave the room. So, they might say that Jenny is a really good leader, like she really brings people along, or Bob is very meticulous, like he just doesn't make mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. Know what your personal brand is, be able to build on that and be visible with it. As I said, have a look at chartered accountants. If you're in PwC qualifying this year, have a look at the ACAs from PwC that were in your division 2 or 3 years ahead of you on LinkedIn, for example. Where do they move to? What do they do with their career decisions? That can be a really good guide as to, where your recent experience could take you. And I always feel that like year one post qualification, like some recruiters will tell you you have to pick a lane, pick a sector and decide where you're going. I think it's a really nice opportunity to just try a few different things, try a contract, um, you know, try a different area, do something particularly different. If you're going to Australia, you could end up working randomly in God knows where, and that's actually still really valuable experience, where you grow in terms of the soft skills. Think two moves ahead is a really good point. Whenever you're taking any job, if you're accepting an offer for a job, always think about where does this position the next paragraph on my CV? So if I take this job, what does it mean for the next job I'm going to take, and how does it fit into my overall vision and picture from my career path and my goals in that regard? Am I picking up certain skills, and how does it add to it? Have a look at the career pathway on Chartered Accountants Ireland's website. I think I have a slide on it, and it'll show you all the skills you need to maybe accumulate depending on your path as a chartered accountant, and that's worthwhile having a look at. Contract options I've mentioned, they can be really non-committal, clever way of kind of stepping into industry or stepping into a sector and kind of getting a taste of it on a non-committal basis. And as you do all that, I think it's a great idea to have a look at Accountancy Ireland back issues and scan through them, see who all the movers and shakers are, and see all the different companies. And it's just well worth acclimatizing to all of that if you're looking at the market. I won't dwell on this slide, but it's a good point to do a bit of a career audit, see where what are my skills to date, what are my achievements, and what do I really enjoy. So similarly, build yourself a career plan, 5 years, 10 years. I think put it in a spreadsheet and constantly chip away at it for years and years is the best approach. But again, that's just a guide. Research the market. No doubt Stephen will kind of allude to this as well, but talk to recruiters, accumulate information, before you step into the market. Make sure you're really well informed. LinkedIn, job sites, alerts, recruiters, your contacts, all that kind of stuff. Know what sectors are moving and shaking, and follow the news and all that kind of stuff. LinkedIn, no doubt many of you will be very savvy when it comes to LinkedIn. It's the FCAs who can't tend to be a little bit kind of hesitant around it, but LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. I always think it's the appendix to your CV. It's your PR. It's your way to be visible. When you're looking at the market, and you need to have a professional photo. You need to be using keywords. You need to be highlighting your association with the institute and your achievements. You need to be active, join groups. Follow your top 10 favorite companies is a really good tip when it comes to LinkedIn. So your feed becomes informed by what's going on with those companies. And then just connect, like, share posts, all that kind of stuff as well. So just a reminder around LinkedIn. I'm doing it professionally. It's nearly as important as your CV, because it's the first place an employer will go once they get your CV in hand. And back to networking. And as I said, now is the opportunity to start your networking. Probably the most key point in this, my talk anyway, is that networking is the spine of a successful career. By the time you get to being an FCA, if you're making a big move in your career, it's going to be predicated on your personal network. The likelihood is, like, this 80-90% likelihood is that you're going to get that big job through your network, and you need to build that, start building that now over time, and just be aware of the relationships you're kind of fostering and connections and so on. You can do the online connectivity through LinkedIn, and then the in-person through the institute, through events, through the jobs that you take, and so on. And as I said, the way to do it is ex-colleagues, constantly chatting to people, social media, etc. And constantly talk to people about career and kind of how they're doing it, and how pick their brains about how they've been successful in it and so on. So just make it part of your habit, really. Join the right groups on LinkedIn to expand your network as well. And as mentioned, the Institute is a huge networking opportunity in terms of the young professionals, which is now being rebranded, I think, ACA professionals. So get involved with them. Fantastic group, great committee. There's lots of groups like that, Leinster Society in the Institute, that you can leverage. As I mentioned, your career pathway, this is a kind of a generic life cycle of a chartered accountant, almost is how I describe it. And it gives you a guide as to the soft skills you might want to pick up through your journey. But it's worth a 10-15 minute scan just to kind of get yourself thinking about what sort of skills you might want to pick up as you move through your various jobs. And then just a reminder, really, that the Institute Careers team is there for you at, we're different to, say, a recruitment agency in a sense that, fine, we do find jobs for members. We do have clients that we work with, but half of my job is the career advisory side of things. And we like to regard ourselves as much more of a sounding board, an impartial kind of sounding board that you can come to first, as you attack the market, or if you're trying to figure out brand new the market and how to come at it. And we're here for you in that regard. So as I kind of wrap up, I suppose on the back of this, the opportunity now is to just kind of take stock, have a look for the rest of 2024 as to how to plan out your career moves, bigger picture, and then more immediate. Self-analyze in terms of what you really want. Start pulling together a strong CV, and if you need CV templates or whatever, give me a shout at any stage. Be aware of your personal brand. Be interview ready when the opportunity knocks, and Stephen's going to give you his kind of opinions and thoughts and experience in relation to that as well. And then become an expert on the market, I suppose, if you are going to step into it. Just a mention it's on something that's coming up as well for newly qualified ACAs, and it's something we've had really good success with in the female member mentor circles recently run, which was compared and was really successful. But it's an opportunity in a month or so, I think, to get involved and have a discussion around issues pertinent to newly qualified in a group setting. So it's free form, but it's kind of guided as well, and it might be just useful. It should be really good. And that's it from me. So in terms of, so as I said, get in touch at any stage with any questions. But I just want to, this year, it's nice to have Stephen Beck having a quick chat with you about his, as I said, practical experience as a hirer of chartered accountants and as a chartered accountant and FCA himself, who has gone through the whole career build. And he's, just to intro Stephen, he's ex-Mazars. He is he is currently running let me just get my guide here, Stephen, apologies. Yes. So he spent the last 10 years working with small, fast-growing Irish businesses with turnovers of between 5 and 10 million, 20 million, apologies. And he's currently runs a management accountants firm that specializes in systems and supporting small business finance teams. Prior to that, he was CFO for travel, telecom, and eSIMS technology businesses. So a wealth of experience, top 8 trained. And I suppose, Stephen, you've probably seen it all in terms of applicants as well, in terms of CVs and interviews and everything. Yeah, a few tips from yourself. I'll over to you then, and thanks for joining us.
So thanks very much, Dave. So I'm just going to talk around a couple of areas, guys, and like Dave was saying, this is really from my experience on the other side. So working with small businesses and helping them to bring in chartered accountants into their team, and quite often it's the first time there's a chartered accountant going into those businesses. And they're growing quite rapidly. So I've always enjoyed working in those small businesses because you learn a lot across a multiple of different areas in the business. You're involved in everything from sales and marketing to to product and development and customer journeys and all that sort of stuff. So it's always been a very interesting career path for me, and helped me kind of get a lot of those sort of insights. So what I thought I'd do today is just share a couple of kind of experiences, I guess, from what I have seen from really good people coming in and really kind of nailing those interviews. And it's in the context of those type of businesses. So I'm sure they're probably relative to most interviews, but I just thought I'd share some of those with you. So the first thing is, there could be 40 or 50 CVs actually come in. And if you're not doing it kind of from a day-to-day perspective, you're actually sifting through them quite quickly. So the types of things that really stand out, and not everyone does it, but even things like having a cover letter there, explaining why the job really interests you, and the reason why you think you're a good fit for that job in that cover letter, really kind of helps people to kind of sift you down, so to speak, from those original large volume of interviews. The other thing that I found really useful as well is when you send out the job specs and when you send out the list of what you're looking for in a candidate, when candidates come back and they've tailored their CV slightly to actually demonstrate with those keywords, with those key skills throughout their own experiences, then it really helps you to kind of work out whether they're the best person to bring to the next round of those interview processes. So those would be the couple of things that are it's quite successful in terms of showing you up from the rest of the people that are there. The second thing then that I would kind of recommend that you do is actually all the kind of work that you do before the interview, and really it's what you do here helps you in your confidence and helps you in kind of asking the right questions or providing the right answers at the actual interview stage. So one of the things that some candidates have done really successfully, in my view, is they've done really good research on the company before, and they've kind of looked into it and kind of understand, particularly from a kind of a finance and a kind of ownership structure. So things like going onto CRO, looking at the company accounts that's available there, looking at the share register, kind of having a little bit of a deeper understanding, particularly from a finance side, on the company policies. And that may not be possible for all companies, but certainly for small and medium-sized companies, there's always that kind of information there. So if you can kind of bring that information and look at the company from that side, when you go to do your interview, you'll have a lot more kind of financial and commercial type of questions to be asking. So that's about looking at the company ownership, looking at the management structure, looking at the executive team that works there, having a look before the interview to see who the interviewers are, what their background in the business. So say it might be someone from the marketing team or someone from the sales team that's involved. It might be the business owner themselves. If you know a little bit about them, you know what interests them, so that you can kind of respond in that particular way for your interviews. The other thing is then looking at the product, at the market, so you can start to think about how the company is making money, where the company is making money, what kind of customers that they have, what the industry is like, if there's anything coming in from a regulatory perspective. So those are the type of things that people will be worried about in the business or see as opportunities in the business. So if you understand those, you can ask those type of questions in the interview as well. Then when it actually gets to the interview itself, I think it's, especially in small businesses, there'll be a lot of executives that are there that they may have been there from the very beginning. There may be family members, there may be owners, and they'll usually be very kind of proud of the business or interested in the business themselves. So the approach that you have is, you're genuinely interested in the company and you've got that kind of desire to work there. And you'd be surprised sometimes how people kind of go through the actual interview process and they go back to kind of prorote what they're doing, but it's what's driving you to be in that business in the first place, is something that kind of really comes across, particularly in those type of interviews. And if you can show that you're commercial as well, so asking those type of positive financial questions that that shows that you have that interest in the business, where it's making that money, how it's making its margins, whether the business is profitable, whether there's investors, how they've received their investment, whether there's debt. Those type of things are quite useful. And so that's where all the research that you've done before the interview becomes really useful when it actually comes to the question time itself. I'm not sure if people do it anymore, but certainly kind of having a little mock interview before you go into the real interview does kind of help as well to kind of get you through those initial couple of questions. And then after the interview as well, if you actually follow up and kind of get feedback and try and understand what people were looking for, you can use that then for your next kind of interview if you weren't successful in that one. So those are really some of the kind of high level experiences and things that I've found that people have done particularly well in, and hopefully they'll be of use to some of you out there.
Okay, guys, sorry about this. Bit of technical difficulty with Dave's mic. Thanks you very much, Stephen. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in Dee France, who's going to go through more in detail about the CA support end of things. So if we have Dee on the line.
Thanks so much. Look, I'm delighted to just pop in and say hello to this audience. Just to introduce myself, my name is Dee France. I work with a team here at the Institute. We have a couple of different areas that we look after. The three areas that I kind of oversee, if you like, with the team is the wellbeing supports. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. An additional support as well, which is the financial assistance under the banner of CA support. That's our benevolent fund. So obviously lots of big professional bodies have a benevolent fund, and it's supported by our members via donations from both individuals and the corporate sector as well. Another thing that I'm over is I've been chairing the Chartered Accountants Worldwide Wellbeing Task Force for a number of years, and I'm just about to start another 2 years as well. So I just want to tell you a very few things about that, just in case there might be something that you'd be interested in getting involved with, or just really to signpost it for your benefit. So just firstly, I want to kind of just take you through, this is your journey. You're probably well used to the kind of the student end of things, and you're coming out of that now. And this is the time to kind of leverage all the hard work and look to the future. And, you know, this is how we kind of map it out. But obviously those kind of touch points and maybe the pain points that you might encounter along the way are where we're trying to kind of support you. So they could be, you know, around family life. They could be, you know, you might take a career break, you might go abroad, you might come back. Any of those kind of challenges that you meet along the way, that is what Thrive, the Wellbeing Hub, is here for. So just to kind of maybe, you know, there's a long list here, a shopping list, if you will. Some of these are kind of at the kind of less serious end of the scale, let's say, and obviously some very, very serious issues that come up for members and students. And it's really just to say that, you know, there's a whole load of things there, but that is not a kind of exhaustive list. There's lots of other things that can come up for people along the way, and that is what we're there for, to help you with any of these. So a typical case would be somebody that might be, you know, a guy working in a multinational in Cork, let's say, struggling with work-life issues or relationship issues. Maybe his lifestyle is a little bit out of whack, you know, that sort of work-life balance, as I say, is out of whack. So he might be struggling with his sleep, down to stress or other issues that's going on. And then the kind of sort of support that we would offer, or a typical example of what the kind of things that we would offer would be, first of all, they might get a contact, and we would provide that one-to-one listening service. So if, you know, things are kind of not too difficult and they just needed a kind of a listening ear, let's say, they might have 3 wellness coaching sessions, and that might be something around, you know, kind of looking at that lifestyle, that stress management, the work-life balance, that kind of thing. So we'd co-create something with them, a kind of a program that would help them, and use that as a kind of a, you know, kind of a benchmarking. They could maybe come back to us in a year or two to see how things are going, but we'd be very much supporting them there in-house, let's say. So we have wellness coaches on the team. Then, for instance, if there is some sort of serious issues going on, again, like that kind of relationship issue or health or mental health or any of those kind of things, we would we would refer you on to our EAP system, or service, I should say, and you can avail of 8 professional counselling sessions with Leah. So then obviously there's other things that we offer. Thrive, we have lots of wellbeing events, but just before I get into that, I want to just kind of like list out those key services. So we have the confidential listening service, we have professional counselling, wellness coaching, and then those webinars. And again, as I say, the wellbeing team. So this is what the website looks like. It's a dedicated website that comes in from the front page, the kind of landing page. On the main website, you can just see a little emblem with the kind of the heart and the 2 hands. Down further, just as you scroll down, there's a kind of a live calendar there of events. As you can see, we've got today's event is there. We work with all of the institute departments, so we kind of make sure this is well populated right across all of the events that are happening. One of the kind of key events that we have coming up is on the 22nd of May around neuroscience and your well-being. Obviously, there's other kind of things there. Mentoring circle. Dave may well have gone through some of these with you. So look, that's kind of where you sort of see a lot of the information, a lot of the kind of live information, and a lot of content that goes out there as well every week. That's the team there on the left-hand side. And then just kind of all I would sort of say to you is just get involved in kind of a lot of the things that are happening in the institute. It's a great way of building your network. It's a great way of kind of, getting support, that peer-to-peer support. But look, this is just a flavour. I could have thrown loads of photographs up here, but it's just to kind of give you an idea. That's our little elephant that was launched back with Brent Pope back in November around men's mental health. We have an event there for ACA's pub quiz. Some of you might have been at that very recently. We have the ethnicity network that we would obviously work with. International Women's Day there on the right hand side, big event with our president, and then our DCU Access Programme candidate there as well, pictured with some of the head honchos at DCU, and here at the Institute, our CEO Barry. So look, just I would say, yeah, get involved. These are great events. They're great ways to kind of progress within your career as well. As I say, the hard work is done. This is the time now to kind of build that network, build your support system as well, and it really does you the world of good. So these are just some of the webinars, some of the faces that we've had on our catalogue, and this is where you'll find us, so Thrive Wellbeing Hub. And then just one of the other areas that I'm overseeing is the CA support. It's been around for 95 years last year. It's a registered charity. We're very much separate to the Institute, although we sit inside, we're kind of employees of the Institute, but the service itself is a charity. We have our own board of directors. Some of the faces there you might recognise. Again, if this is something that you want to get involved in, we'd love to hear from you. So this is, your charity. It's there to support you and people like you. And of course, everything might be going great at the moment, but we just, no one really knows when something can happen, when there is that kind of crisis time in their lives. But these are all, very senior, very kind of involved members, past presidents and council members and people that are really care, I suppose, about the members and the students of the Institute. So again, as I say, feel free to get involved for either you're in support or maybe somebody that that might need that support. These are just some of the people that we help. These have obviously been anonymized, but you can see it's all of those kind of issues that I talked about, struggling financially. So obviously, as I say, CA support is around that emergency financial assistance. So if you might have a mental health crisis, or you might have a kind of a relationship crisis, and that might impact and cause financial distress, and that's where we would step in to support. These are just some of the testimonials. I could share this out afterwards, or you can obviously go and have a look at the various parts of the website as well to kind of find out more information. And then just finally, that's obviously our QR code, and I just wanted to quickly tell you about the Chartered Accountants Wellbeing Wellbeing Task Force. So as I say, I've been chairing that for a number of years and going into another 2-year term. This is a pretty impressive 1.8 million global accountants across the world that are members of the Chartered Accountants Worldwide network, if you like. And as I would say, there's a wellbeing hub there as well on this particular website, on the Chartered Accountants Worldwide website. And look, it's a great way to kind of connect in with that global audience, and really a driver for building your network. beyond Ireland and beyond the UK. And there's obviously wellbeing activities going on in that area as well. And one of the things I just wanted to call out is we are about to embark on a really exciting piece of research. We have a survey going out. It's going to be announced on all our channels around the 20th of May. But while I have you here today, just to implore you to fill it out. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes to fill it out. It's about your own personal resilience score, actually, and you get that result yourself and a couple of tips and tricks, and then on how to kind of build your own resilience. We'll be sharing out all the details and all the data that's collected from that. So hopefully we'll have some rich data on the resilience of the global accountancy profession, which will hopefully provide some insights and then drive that kind of support and what we need to be doing to both attract the sort of the new blood into the profession and to build the resilience and make sure that we're all kind of future proof for what's coming down the track. So should be an interesting piece of research for that. So I think I'm coming to the end. Yes, I am. Just want to say thanks for listening. Those are the QR codes there that'll bring you directly to the different sites. And please do get in touch with us. Lots of great support here for you at the Institute. So thanks so much for letting me come in here and have a quick chat with you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a million, Dee, and thanks for picking up the baton there. My PC hung, but I did intro you earlier on. So super presentation. Thanks a million for that. And it's a great reminder, actually, just to how the Institute really looks after its members. I think I always love hearing that, and the extent to which we go on that front, and particularly for newly quals. You know, there's so much going on. I know the stresses of maybe the studies are done. This whole new kind of set of stresses as you start into new jobs and kind of career build stuff. So it's brilliant to know that all the supports are there. And equally, again, just a reminder on that, the networking front with all the different societies, committees, events, all that kind of stuff. And Stephen, thanks. Sorry, I didn't, I kind of left you hanging there towards the end of your talk, but thanks for that. It was brilliant. And what I really liked actually was the key pointers around, you know, getting the accounts maybe before you go to interview, and having a look at kind of performance measures and actually digging into the numbers can be really good homework and very impressive. And what I'm doing, a bit like any recruitment agency, I suppose, but if I'm sending members forward for interview, I'd always do customized, very particular interview preparation sessions with anyone. And I think your point around the mock interviews is really well taken, very important. Every interview is completely different people sitting the other side of the desk, and you know, doing your homework before you go in and practicing it in a mock interview is quite important, actually. So if anyone does need to do that and they have interviews coming up, they can always contact the careers team for a bit of a guide on that front. And for anything you've seen today, guys, if you want to get anything sent on to you, just shout. You have all our contact details there. And really, thanks again just to Stephen and to Dee for breaking it up today. And if there's any questions, there might be, just shout and send on in the chat if there's any questions from anyone at this point. More than happy to answer them. Questions necessarily coming through there. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, sorry, there is one through. Average salary for newly quals in Cork roles. So the question is, what's the average salary for a newly qualified for Cork roles? So we're an All Ireland team, as you know, and you know, fine, sometimes it can be Dublin centric, but things are very positive in all the regions at the moment. And I would say that Cork is pretty similar to Dublin in terms of salary levels. Like you could say when you go regional, you know, that there's a slight shift in terms of maybe 6-8% in terms of base salaries. But it just depends on what sector. If you're moving into industry, if you're staying in practice, you know, you'd usually adjust a little bit for maybe being outside of Dublin. The cost of living in Dublin is higher, so there tends to be a little bit of a premium in terms of salaries. But I would see Cork pretty much on a par in that regard. So hopefully that answers your question there. So high 50s, you know, if you're coming from a big four, early 60s. If there's any other questions, guys, just shout, or if you want to ping me on an email afterwards, I can answer it one-to-one. But just to before we go, thanks a million for everyone joining us, and a reminder on the mentor circles coming up in the month ahead. Keep an eye out for that, and shout, raise a hand if you want to get involved and attend that evening. And thanks to Chris for comparing. Okay, thanks guys. Take care.